This is the next video in the historic ordnance series. Now I'm going to give you a piece of ordnance here that has been in the U.S. inventory for 30 years. But even though it's been in the inventory for 30 years, it's still classified. What you see here is a selectable, lightweight attack munition or SLAM. Now it may look like it's a landmine, it can be employed in a landmine role, but it is classified by the U.S. military as a special purpose munition. It can be used not just in a mine role, but also in a role as a demolitions charge. Now these were manufactured, I should say first, they were manufactured their initial run from 92 to 2002. And during this time period, starting in 1994, they were officially fielded. The only people that could use them at that time was Special Operations Forces, such as Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Rangers, Delta Force, and all those other little groups that are in the U.S. military that we're not supposed to know the names of. Those special little commando groups that are there. Then you can guarantee groups like CIA Special Operations would have access to these also. Now in 2014, they changed in classification. And the Army decided that these could be issued to all engineer units. Every engineer unit can have access to them as long as they are authorized to handle explosive ordnance and landmines. Now there are 4 versions of this. The M2 and the M3, which are designated only for special operations use. The M4 and the M4A1, which are the versions that were designated for use by everyone in the United States Army. Now, the M2 and the M3 are self-neutralizing. When the timer runs out on them, it fries out the electronics and it can no longer be used in that mode. They can only be set off by command detonation at that point. The M4 and the M4A1, and this is, I believe it's an M4. And how you can tell this one, it's solid green and has a black painted warhead here. The M2 and the M3, it's just solid green, no markings. The M4 and M4A1, when it reaches the end of their timer, they self-destruct. They're supposed to detonate. Now, some of the technicals before we get too far into the weeds on this. Length is 5 1/4 inches. Width is 3 1/2 inches. Depth is 2 1/4 inches. Weight is around 2 1/4 pounds. These are waterproof for a depth of up to 2 meters. Now, I would not recommend using them in water because water is a great tamping agent. It will interfere with the explosively formed penetrator, the EFP. But, you know, depending on mission requirements, say you have to put it at some type of crossing in a stream or a river and that stuff, you put it in before it floods or while it's flooding. You know, the enemy convoy is going to be passing that point after the flooding has gone down. You know, you can do that. Below the depth of 2 meters, you run the risk that water is going to start penetrating the seals on the casing and frying out the electronics. Now, these have 4 different modes that they can be set for engaging their target. They can be set for magnetic influence. They can be set for passive infrared, which detects changes in temperature. They can be set for timed attack, which is when you do that when you're going to use it as a sabotage charge. You're trying to destroy enemy material with you bugging out of the area. And it can also be used in command detonation mode. Now, there are 3 operational modes or ways it can be employed to hit the target. Obviously timed, bottom attack, and when it's in bottom attack, it's set to magnetic mode. side attack, and at that point it's set to either passive infrared or to command detonation. Now, recommended targets that this was designed to defeat is armored personnel carriers, light armored vehicles, parked aircraft, unarmored vehicles such as jeeps and cargo trucks, ammunition storage piles, and fuel storage tanks up to 10,000 gallons. Now, the range on this is a max of 25 feet or 8 meters, but there's also a minimum range because this is an explosively formed projectile, an EFP. The minimum range between the warhead and the target has to be at least 5 inches. If it's closer than 5 inches, the EFP is not going to form properly, and all you have essentially at that point is an explosive charge. Now, penetration capabilities, from 5 inches to 20 inches, it can penetrate up to 20 millimeters of armor. Out to 25 feet, it can penetrate up to 40 millimeters of armor. Past 25 feet, no guarantee it's going to penetrate the armor on an armored vehicle, but it still can cause damage to an unarmored vehicle like a jeep or a cargo truck, or troops directly in front of it. Now, these are packaged, and I'll put this out here and I'll show you some stuff here. They're packaged one mine inside what's referred to as an REP. This is the REP here, a reusable environmental protective pack. Inside each REP, you're going to have one mine and one instruction sheet. Inside each container, you're going to have 8 REPs, so 8 mines, 8 carrying straps, 8 leg straps with no clear description of what a leg strap is. And then you're going to have 2 of these containers inside a wire-bound crate. Oh, I should mention the container. I did miss this here. I had to look it up. I looked up the designation code for the container. It is what is referred to as a tall 50 can. So it's a large 50 can, extra tall, and inside that you got the 8 mines and associated equipment. There's 2 of those tall 50 cans per wire-bound crate, and 27 of those wire-bound crates per pallet. So per crate, you're going to have 16 slams with accessories, and per pallet, you come out to 432 slams per pallet load. That is quite a few mines. So, I'll just pop back to here quick. This is the actual mine. This down here is the trainer. You can see that they're pretty close in appearance. These are green, these are black and marked inert. They're the same in weight, same in size for use during training. A lot of the pictures I have are of them being used in training. Now, if combat cameraman can zoom in just a bit on that, I have here some pictures of them being employed. Here you see one being held in the hand. This is going to be a M2 version. You can see that it's just a little bit bigger than your hand size. And these are pretty lightweight. Now, for emplacing these. And first we'll go into for command detonated. You first go through, inspect the mines that you're going to use and your accessories that you need with it. To include, in this case, You have a, I'm guessing this one, looking at the appearance, is probably an M21, 500 feet MDI initiation set, modern or modernized demolition initiators set. It can also be set off with the M23, which is a 1,000-foot spool of shock tube. But you go through, you inspect everything, make sure it's usable. The batteries are internal on the mine. You do not have to add batteries in there. The maximum on storage, it says, for those batteries to last is out in the open, unprotected, 2 years. If it's put in a climate-controlled facility, the batteries can last, they estimate, up to 20 years. So you really don't have to worry about the batteries. Inspect it. If it passes, pack it up, take it to your place of emplacement, your ambush site, where you're going to ambush a convoy. You're going to move forward and choose where you're going to put your mine. Are you going to set it on the ground next to the target, or are you going to tie it to a tree? If you're going to tie it to a tree or a fence post, you're either going to use one of the carrying straps like here, or you're going to use some wire. You're going to attach it to that post. If you're going to put it on the ground, set it on the ground where it's going to be at. You're then going to attach, if you have it, which it does come with the M4A1, what's referred to as the Omega sight. This is a laser sight that's on a little rod that attaches right up here on the top of the mine. It just slides right in there. Turn that laser on, and then you can more easily dial in the direction that it's facing, you know, where your target's going to be at, to make sure that you got that right, you know, that perpendicular hit on your target. You're then going to remove, right down here, what is referred to as the blasting cap well plug. In this location, you just need a screwdriver or a knife to unscrew it. You will then insert your blasting cap in there, and you will use, as you can see here, an M1A4 priming adapter to screw it into place. But I have no doubt, as long as you got the cap in there, just put some tape over the top of that. Make sure you don't have a hard bend in your MDI, and you can tape that on and it'll work just fine. Spool your firing wire back to your initiation point, and then wait for your target to come through. When your target comes through, it's in the kill zone, right spot. You pop that M81 fuse igniter, set off the shock tube, and the blasting cap will set off the mine. Easy peasy. If it is set up in command detonated mode, you do not use it. You can go back up there, remove the blasting cap and the priming adapter, screw the cap well plug back in place, and reuse the mine again. Now, reportedly, the M3 version of the SLAM, and how you can tell an M3 from an M2, the M2 has the activation lever here, and it also has the safety pin, which is held in by the activation lever. The M3 version has none of that. All it has is the cap well for setting the mine off. It has no electronics inside. The M3s are meant to be recoverable. The M2s, you can reuse them if they're a dud or they don't go off within the time limits. Now, for emplacing this using the sensors, this gets a little more complicated. And this was the hard to get information, because technically it's still classified. So I cannot guarantee that what I have is 100% correct. If I do find out in the future, because I can get a hold of a manual and I find out the information is incorrect, I will redo this video. But from what I can piece together, this is most likely the correct procedure for emplacing this mine. First thing you do, you go through, inspect the mine, and inspect the accessories. Make sure everything is suitable for the mission. Pack it up, move to the location where you are going to employ the slam. Once you are there, you're going to find your emplacement site so that you know where you're going to put it. You're going to set the selector switch, which is right here. This is the back side of the mine, right down here towards the back, kind of on the bottom. The older models, the M2, M3, it sounds like it's on the back. The M4, it looks like it's on the bottom. You have a rotary switch there, which goes clockwise. Now you're going to set the mode of the mine at this time. And I'm going to try to make sure I find the right information here. I'll just read it off to you from the description page. The selector switch is used to select operating modes and times. It has 8 detent positions. The switch is against the stop when it's in the shipping position. And there is a note, if the switch is not in the shipping position, it will not fit inside the reusable container. It will not close. This is the only switch position that allows the slam to fit in the reusable environmental protective pack. Turning clockwise, there are then 3 positions for selecting an operating time: 4 hours, 10 hours, and 24 hours. Setting any of these positions will select an internal sensor mode of operation, which is magnetic sensor for in bottom attack mode or passive infrared sensor for side attack mode. These 3 positions will cause the slam to self-destruct or self-neutralize at the end of the selected operating time. Continuing past this position going clockwise, the last 4 positions select an internal timer which sets the minutes until demolition. So at this point you can use it as a demolition charge. And in this position, the detonation timer is set to either 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes. And there is a note that once the selector has been chosen, and then you go through and arm the mine, the computer inside it will permanently set it to that position. You cannot go back after you've armed it and change it to a different mode because you want more time or less time. It will not allow you to do that. And I've actually came across warnings that if you try doing that after it has armed, it will detonate in your hand because it does have anti-tampering circuitry with the mine. So if it's armed, someone tries taking it apart or changing the setting once it's armed, it's going to go off. So we go through, set the what we want. If we're going to put it into the roadway for bottom attack, we're going to go into the roadway, either hide it in the grass or we're going to dig a small hole. The top of the mine or the slam must be with the level of the surface. You put it in there in the drive path. Remember, you've set the selector to what you want for the number of hours you want it to be active at either 4, 10, or 24 hours. At this point, you go through and camouflage it. If it's in grass, you can just camouflage it with some leaves or grass. It will not interfere. If you're putting it in the ground, it's kind of recommended that maybe you put a thin piece of cardboard at least over the top of your charge here, because you do not want too much dirt inside the cavity of the EFP. There's notes that if the depth of soil that falls into the cavity here exceeds the height of the cavity from the bottom of the cavity to level with the mine, if it exceeds that, the EFP will not form properly. So that's why I'm saying go through, put a piece of cardboard over the top of it, and then camouflage it with a light layer of dirt over that or grass over that so that the enemy will not see it. Now, in order to put this into that magnetic, you're going to leave this cover right here in place. If this cover is in place, it will switch on the magnetic sensor inside. To activate the mine, on the side here you have the activation lever. Right here is the pin or the thumb hole for the activation lever. You take that, turn it straight out. You then pull the lever straight out the side of the mine. You then take that activation lever, because it's not activated yet, and right in here, which I know there's one picture that shows it pretty good, or can. Right here, you see this silver thing right here. That's the safety pin. You're going to take the end of your activation lever, and then somewhere in here, you're going to slip the activation lever in, and you're going to pry up and out the safety pin. Once you got it pried up out of the casing of the mine, you can then grab it and remove it. That begins the arming process. At that point, it looks like you have a max of 5 minutes before the internal circuitry in the mine goes active. The timer starts counting down as soon as that safety pin is removed. So that could give you just enough time to get that cartboard over the mine, put a little dirt over it to camouflage it, or to put that grass over the top of the mine. Now, if you're going to put it into side attack mode with passive infrared, similar procedures. You're going to go through, inspect your mine, the accessories that you need to put it in place. Make sure everything's good. Take it out to the site where you're going to place it. Once you get to the site, you're going to select the location you're going to put your mine in. Once you've selected the location, you're going to choose which of the modes that you want. The 4 hours, 10 hours, or 24 hours, the first 3 positions. Then you're going to emplace the mine. Either hide it in the brush on the side or attach it to a tree using the strap. And I'll mention right here, right down here, you see there's 2 holes about midway on the munition here. Those are the, I want to get the actual term for them. And now I can't find the term. There's actually a term for those. Those are the points where you actually attach the straps to or run wire to connect it to a fence post or a log. I know it's on my sheet here, I just cannot find the official technical name that they gave it when they were naming everything. So you get it in position, you already have the mode selected. You're then going to put your Omega sight on. You're going to confirm it's pointing where you want it to go. If it's pointing where you want it to go, remove the Omega sight, make sure to turn it off and pack it up. At this point, that's when you're going to go through. You're going to lift up the thumb hole here for the activation lever. You're going to pull it out, use the end of the activation lever to remove the safety pin. And you're also going to remove the cover from right here on front of the munition. I think you're supposed to remove this before the lever. My mix-up. But as long as you get it removed quickly, what that does, that will turn on the passive infrared sensor. So once that 5 minutes counts down, once the target passes in front of the mine and the mine detects that change in temperature in front of it, that's when the slam will go off. Hopefully penetrating the target. Now there is a note here for both the magnetic sensor mode, and the passive infrared sensor mode, or PIR mode. Once armed, do not approach the SLAM because it has anti-disturbance and anti-tampering features. If the SLAM is moved even slightly, it will detonate. If anyone attempts to change the setting on the mode, such as turning it counterclockwise to try to turn the mine off, it will detonate. If anyone attempts to disarm the mine by taking off the back cover and removing the battery or any type of electronics, it will detonate. That's not a problem when it's in command detonated. That is only those two features, the anti-tampering and the anti-disturbance features, are only activated once the mine's electronics have gone active. So, some of the safety information I could find on this for the danger zone around it, I had to go to U.S. Army range safety information. The front of the mine produces a cone that is 40 degrees wide, so 20 to either side from dead center. That's the danger area in front of the mine. The safety area or danger zone around the mine is 230 meters. But there is a note, you can be within 100 meters of the SLAM if you're behind some type of cover. And special operations, I'm sure they say, screw it, I got it hidden behind a rock, I'm on the other side of the rock, when it goes off I'm just fine. You know, those guys are weird. Now, once the timer counts down to the end of that 4 hours, 10 hours, or 24 hours, the mine is supposed to detonate. If it's the M4 or M4A1. If it's the M2, it's just supposed to neutralize, and it's supposed to fry out the electronics. Then that Special Forces soldier can come up there, recover the mine, and he can still use it again, but only in command detonation mode. Now, to use this as a demolitions charge, we're going to attach it to the side of an aircraft, or we're going to put it on the side of a fuel tank to destroy some fuel that's in there, hopefully set it ablaze and set the whole tank yard up. Or we're going to hide it inside an ammo dump to start destroying the ammunition. Same thing, go through, inspect your stuff, pack it, bring it with you. You get to your target location. Once you're at that target location, you're going to flip past those first three positions, and then you're going to choose a time that you want that charge to go off. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes. You will then place the charge facing the target. So this side facing your target, facing the air, directly to the skin of the aircraft. And there's pictures of them meaning this to be attached to, say, the bottom of the fuel tank of a attack helicopter, or right next to the fuel tank on a jet. Attach it on there any way you can. If you're going to use some type of magnets, you're going to tape it on there, super glue it, I don't know, whatever way. You get it attached on there, it's set in its mode. Actually, you're going to attach it afterwards, now that I think of it. Set the mode, pull the activation lever, remove the safety pin, then attach it to the target, or set it right next to the target or in the pile of ammunition. You do not need to remove the sensor cover. Now your time is running. Within 5 minutes, it's going to activate. At the end of that 5 minutes, that's when the timer is going to begin. And when it gets to the end of that 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes, this is going to detonate. Hopefully heavily damaging or destroying the target. And, same information as before. Once it goes active, or once you've pulled the safety pin, do not mess with it. Do not try changing modes. Do not try opening it up. Do not try moving it once it's active, because it's going to go off right away. Just checking through here. Quick note for command detonation, if you do not have an M21 or M23 initiation set for MDI, and what that is, you have a high strength cap, you know, either a 500 foot or 1,000 foot length of shock tube, and the other end of it on the spool is an M81 fuse igniter. It's all pre-crimped, you know, it's all set, waterproofed and all that in the package, ready to go. But if you don't have that, you can use an M11 branch line, which is a 30 foot length of shock tube with a high strength cap on the end, or you can use any standard US military blasting cap, at least the non-electric ones. Electric ones can be a little bit long. They may not fit all the way into the fuse well, but as long as you get it in there and then anchor it down with some tape so it's not going to fall out or pull out, maybe take the leads from the electric blasting cap, wrap it around, tie it off like you would have to on a piece of TNT if you read into that one, just to keep that cap from getting pulled out. You can use that to set it off also. There you go. That's all the information I could dig up. A reminder on this, I did not get a hold of the actual manual on this, not as a PDF or a paper manual, because it's classified. The information I gave you is what I could glean from multiple sources. Bits and pieces from multiple US military manuals that talk about these, also press releases, videos on these being used for training, and I was kind of able to piece together how these things work, and hopefully I've given you the correct steps for this. And the final notice on this, it is not illegal to own a training aid. You know, one of these things. They're black, they say inert on it. It looks completely different in the warhead area here. Not illegal to own those. But it is very illegal to own the real thing. If you have one, I can guarantee that there's some federal agency that's going to come looking for it. And when they catch you with it, you're going to go to jail for a wee long time. Not just for theft of government property, but potentially, because it's a classified piece of ordnance, potentially as a spy. So you've been forewarned. Hopefully in not too long, they will declassify the manuals on this so we can find out more information. These have been in the inventory already for 30 years. Why it's still so highly classified, I don't know. I mean, they've already declassified the manuals for the Javelin anti-tank missile, which was adopted in the late 90s. Why won't they declassify at least a basic field manual on these? Anyone's guess. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember SA-ons.